Hello, this is Mr. Vaughn again with video lesson 1.3, chapter 1, lesson 3 on rates. So, we've already talked about ratios, and a rate is a special ratio. It's still considered ratio, but it's a little bit different. It compares two quantities with division. So, when we talked about ratios, we talked about comparing things that are kind of similar, like cats to dogs. In the pound, there's a ratio of 3 cats to 4 dogs. We talked about the ratio of boys to girls in the class. We talked about fiction books, nonfiction books. Those are all similar. When you get to rates, a rate is a ratio that has some different things that you're comparing. So they're not going to be related like that. So some real life examples of that might be when you are going to get gas. Your parents are going to buy gas. You pay in dollars per gallon. It's $5.50 per 1 gallon. That's a rate. Dollars and gallons don't normally go together. Alex topics per week. You have to do 7 Alex topics per week. That's a rate. So they're not as closely rated as the other ratios, and they're almost always going to have the word per in them. They don't have to, but you can say them with the word per in them pretty confidently. Okay, so on with some examples. So Joe scored 6 goals in the last 3 games. He scored goals at a rate of 6 goals per 3 games. So you're going to write this just like we did with the ratios. We're going to write it in fraction form, and he scored 6 goals in 3 games. Yay! That's the rate at which he scored goals. That's it. Now, most of the time, you're going to be asked to take that, or often I should say, you're going to be asked to take that and write it as a unit rate. So let's talk about unit rates. Unit rates are a rate with a 1 on the bottom when you're working in fraction form with the 1 as a denominator. I'm trying to do my best handwriting here, but I also don't want to have you guys wait. Denominator. So instead of 3 games here, we're going to calculate how much it would be if it was 1 game. That's called a unit rate. So same example as above. Joe scored goals at a rate of 6 goals per 3 games. So we're going to write like a ratio in fraction form, 6 goals per 3 games. We've already established that up above. And then we're going to get it where it has a 1 on the bottom. So what do we do to a 3 to get it to be a 1? We divide by 3. Since we divided by 3 on the bottom, we got to divide by 3 on the top. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So as a unit rate, he scored 2 goals per 1 game. So this is really useful like when you're trying to compare rates of something or when you're trying to do other calculations as well. So let's say Joe's friend comes by and says, I scored 10 goals. I'm better than you. I scored 10 goals. And Joe says, well, wait, friend, you played in more games than me. You scored 5 games. And the friend says, well, I still think I scored more goals than you. I still think I'm better than you. So let's write it out. Goals per game, and the other person scored 10 goals in 5 games. If we get this down to a unit rate, divide the top and bottom by 5, that's 1 over 2. This guy scored, or gal, scored goals at a rate of 2 goals per game. It's the same. So they scored goals at the same rate. They just played more games. Okay? All right, this is your turn 1. I threw it in there. It's a little bit of a tough one. So let's go through this one together as well. In 45 days, a store used 20 pounds of beef. How many pounds per day? So when we were doing ratios, I emphasized that you need to label the top and the bottom when you're writing things in fraction form. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put day on the bottom and pounds on the top. Then I'm going to fill in what I know. 20 pounds in 45 days. And they want us to get to per day. So they want to write it as a unit rate. How many per one day? So when I try to get this as a 1 on the bottom, that's a little bit tough. You've got some choices here. Most of the time, they're going to want it as a fraction, but I want to show you how to do it as a decimal as well. So here you would, to get a 45 and a 1, you divide it by 45 and divide 20 by 45. And then you would get out your calculator, which I don't happen to have out, but let me get it right now. 20 divided by 45 is 0.4 repeating. So it's 0.44444 pounds of beef they used in a day. Now, the better way to do it, I'll write it down here. The way that you'll see it most often asked on ALEKS is to take that 20 pounds per 45 days and get it down to, or get it into simplest form. So 5 will go into both of these. We've got 4 over 9. So 20 divided by 5 is 4. 45 divided by, 20 divided by 5 is 4. 45 divided by 5 is 9. So we have 4 ninths. You take that and you make that how many pounds you used. So they used 4 ninths of a pound. That's your actual answer. 4 ninths of a pound per day, each day. So you can write it as a fraction. More often, this is what's going to happen. Just simplify it as far down as you can go, and then put that as the numerator. Now, that's one is a little bit confusing, so do the best you can, write it down, and we will practice some more in class. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.